a mom goes to a school with a gun because she's trying to somehow protect her child, and then she gets shot by the police. And I gotta say this, she's lucky. She is lucky. Let's put up her picture. Okay, that is Tierra Vachon, a mother. She got shot in the hand by the police when she brought a gun to her daughter's school after her daughter was involved in a fight. She got shot in the hand, okay? After getting the word that her daughter was involved in a fight at Booker T. Washington High School, Tierra made her way to the school armed. A lot of students there, all right? When she showed up on campus, Tierra had brought a gun and began waving it at students. That's when police responded. The woman was told by APS police to drop her gun. When she did not comply, an officer shot her in the hand. Listen, if that parent would have been shot and killed, tragic, yes, the police would have been well justified here. You're talking about a parent coming to the school, has a motive to harm another student, brings a gun, takes the gun out, waves the gun around. Now, I'm highlighting this story for a few reasons. Number one, the police were able to fire the gun to wound and not to kill. Now, that's quite fascinating because they're trained to use their guns to kill. This is abnormal. This typically does not happen. So it's worthy to highlight. Life was preserved here. Now, granted, if this young lady, if this mother would have been shot and seriously injured or died, tragedy, yes, but it likely would have stopped another one. Another reason I'm highlighting this story is because there's an accountability factor here. What kind of wisdom do you have as a parent to go up to your child's school with a gun because your child is in a physical altercation? Now, there are some people who are going to push back on me because I'm talking about a black mother. But let me submit this to you. You see, if this was a Trump supporter, you would have no problem with me highlighting the extreme criminal activity of a Trump supporter on a school campus. And because we traffic in truth at Indisputable, I have no problem highlighting the insanity of this parent taking a gun on a school campus to settle a fight between her daughter and one of her peers. Now, I also feel bad for the student that is the child of this mother, because now this child has a certain peer psychology they will have to deal with. And it is unfortunate. Ben, thoughts on this?
Yeah, this is a really unfortunate situation, but it is one of those moments where it shows you, like, this is one of the few instances where calling the police is appropriate, right? Somebody brought a gun, literally children's lives were in danger, right? There are very few instances where police actually need to be called, right? And talking about situations here, right? She brought a gun to a situation that should have been resolved inside of the school, interpersonally, right? Maybe you get both parents, you sit in a room together with the kids and you talk it out and figure out, how do we stop these kids from fighting each other?
Yep.
You don't bring a gun to that situation because it only makes things worse, right? That's the reason why we don't want people to call the cops for things that don't need it, right? You don't need to bring a gun into a situation because that only escalates things. And that's what she did, except for she took it into her own hands instead of just calling the police. It's the same problem on a certain level. And like I think we're all lucky that people weren't more hurt than the one person get her hand shot.
Yeah, and listen, I gotta give a shout out to APD, whoever that officer was, for shooting her in the hand. Tragedy averted, life is preserved. Yes, there's a lengthy charge list. This parent will likely be in prison for a few years. Let's put up the charge docket. She has been charged with obstructing a law enforcement officer with violence, disrupting public school, carrying possession of a firearm on school property, aggravated assault, cruelty to children, contributing to delinquency of a minor. That's going to give you some time. You get convicted of all of those. It is tragic all the way around, right? But fascinating that the cop was able to shoot to wound and preserve a life here when the cop would have been wholly justified if it went the other way.